Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm so glad you could come back. This is our fifth and final video for our first full YouTube video series, talking about you building up the skills that you need to be able to run your own business. Tonight we're going to wrap it up with our last video talking about making the decision to commit. Let's go ahead and get started. Thank you again for checking out my channel. I want to go ahead and remind you before we get into this, go ahead and give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you learned something. And if you had any questions, comments, or just to let me know what you thought of the video, I would love if you would drop a little comment below and let me know. We can chat. So, what did we talk about in our previous 4 videos? Well, if you haven't seen them, make sure you check them out. They all really lead up to this point. We've talked about the difference between motivation and discipline and kind of how to determine which of those is important in which setting. We've talked about how to build up your willpower with a series of smaller steps so that you can kind of ramp yourself up to bigger, little scarier tasks and projects at hand. We've talked about organizing your priorities. We've figured out that the bigger, most important things need to be addressed first, and then you kind of work your way backwards to the stuff that doesn't matter as much, and then you can kind of pepper that in throughout your day. It'll help you feel much more accomplished and that you've achieved a lot, in addition to freeing up more of your time in general. We've also talked about smart goal setting for both the short and the long term, and some easy steps to follow in order to make sure you're getting the most out of your time and that you're really setting your sights big so that you can get yourself where you want to be. So tonight we're talking about committing. So all of the things we've already discussed have been skills and little tips and tricks to kind of get you in the right mindset for tackling that question. Is it a business or a hobby? I think there's sort of a negative connotation that comes with hobby art, and it's totally undeserved. I mean, honestly, when you decide that you want to be a business person instead of a hobby artist, there's a lot of sacrifice that comes with that. The hobby artist is able to work on their own time. They're able to really work a lot of self-expression and really kind of drive their own creativity however they want it to go, which is a beautiful thing, and it often produces incredible work. Not to say that you can't produce that same sort of self-inspired and incredible work when you're working your own business, but I will say a lot of running a business is answering to other people's needs and demands and putting yourself and your desires on the back burner. It's a question you have to address. I didn't realize how important that question would be when I decided to become a business instead of a hobby artist, but I'm glad I made the decision that I did, and I'm working toward a future where I'm able to spend a lot more time with my hobbies and my little things that I want to do, my little side projects, and less time sort of filling out custom orders and things like that. Next question. Can I afford to invest in this? Well, investment is not just monetary, right? So investment's going to be your time, a little bit of your sanity. You're going to, of course, have to spend a pretty good amount of money just to kind of get yourself up and running up front. You're going to have to invest your faith in yourself. You can't really rely on other people to keep the bus moving when you're feeling beat down and worn out. It's great to have, a support group, and we'll get into that in a minute. But really, you need to make sure that you're ready to take this plunge. Do not make this decision lightly, because once you're in, you're in. Like, if you're going to spend a couple $100 buying equipment and supplies, maybe more than that, maybe a couple $1,000, I don't know. Whatever you're doing with your work, you're going to have to make some monetary investments as well, and I can tell you it will hurt so much more if you do those things and then decide after the fact it's not what you want to do. So let's talk about what I was getting into with your accountability. Now, who is going to hold you accountable when you're having those hard days or those rough times? Who is going to make sure that you've got your ducks in a row? You are. That's why we covered all of those different tips and tricks in the previous 4 videos before this one. So Of course, it absolutely helps to have a plan in place for the days when you're not doing so well. And that in itself is self accountability. You're saying, I know there are going to be times where I struggle with this, so I want to be ready and have someone I can reach out to or a group, networking, whatever. You need to have an accountability plan in place because you're not going to be 100% all of the time. So that takes us to our next question is what types of help or leverage do I have available? So one thing that it was very difficult for me to learn when getting my business running was that you don't have to do everything yourself. If there's help available, take it. You will save yourself so much stress and anxiety by being willing to accept the help offered by other people. For example, these little things. These are how I start all of my dragons. They turn into the body sort of forms, and then, you know, it's made out of aluminum foil, and it's relatively easy to do. I have tasked siblings, relatives, friends, whoever's willing to help me out with making these shapes out of aluminum foil. I've asked for friends helping stamping my bags with my logo when I go to shows and conventions. I've asked for help with painting the gloss coating onto my dragons after they've been sculpted. You know, whatever little bits of help you can get, they may seem minor and insignificant, but over time it really adds up and it just saves you that stress and anxiety. So those are like business oriented help, but then let's talk about stuff like, well, what if you need someone to come with you to a show? You don't want to do it all yourself. You can't manage it yourself, so you're going to ask a friend or a neighbor or whatever, a sibling, and can you just come with me for the weekend? Personally, I like to pay people who help me because they're sacrificing their time and their energy. And I mean, you can work that out with whoever you're talking to. I don't think it ever hurts to offer some form of compensation. Now, whether you want to go the money route, that's your call. Or if you feel like it's important to pay someone back, but you can't afford to with money, then, you know, talk it out beforehand. Be like, I'm going to buy you your meals while we're on this trip. Of course, you can trade skills. You can say, I'll do free art for you, or I'll watch your kids or walk your dog, whatever it is. Be willing to put up before you ask other people. But if they volunteer, if they say, you know, I just really want to get to that convention and I'm happy to help out behind the booth, congrats, you've got free help. Take advantage of it. You know, I think it's important to be fair. And when I say take advantage, I don't mean take advantage. What I mean is, you know, like, if someone's willing to give you their time, that is fantastic. Don't turn it down because of some kind of pride that you have to manage everything on your own. So that's really it. Like, those are the big questions. How sure am I that I'm going to commit to this? So one more time, is it a business or a hobby? Can I afford to invest in this? And how much can I afford to invest in this? How will I hold myself accountable for this? And what types of help or leverage do I have available? One last little note about that last piece. Everyone is coming from a different background. I knew when I started this series that I didn't want to try to portray all of this as anyone can do it, because I certainly don't think that's the truth. I think it would be dishonest of me to say, it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from, you can quit your job and start running your own business, because that'll get people into trouble. The truth is, I have been very lucky and I have had amazing privileges available to me to save money, to cut costs in different places. I've had a fantastic support group of friends and family and my incredible boyfriend, always ready at the drop of a hat to help me out as much as I needed. And I know you won't all have those things available to you. But if that's the case, look for the little gems that seem like they might bloom into something that could be of greater help to you. And if you don't have anyone or anything, reach out to me and talk to me. I can get you in touch with some great social media groups for networking, where you can kind of become a part of a community. You are not alone in trying to do this. You shouldn't be and do not need to be alone in trying to do this. There are a lot of us out there all doing this together. It is scary at first. You will struggle, you will stumble, you will fail. But the ones who stick it out and continue to work hard to make those improvements and adjustments, both with their craft itself and with the running of the business, those are the ones who succeed. And I aim to be one of those people, and I want you to be one of those people too. So please feel free to reach out. Like I said, leave a comment. You're free to hit me up, through my Facebook account or through any other social media of mine that you may or may not be following. If you're not, you should be. So I hope you've learned something from this. I hope you're ready to dive into our next video series, which will be taking all of the skills that we've learned and implementing them in the smaller, more detailed ways, like setting up your online account for whether it's with Etsy or some other platform for selling your product. We'll talk about the ins and outs of the convention trade and how difficult that gets and how rewarding it can be. We'll talk about everything in between. I'm going to give you guys a tour of my studio. I'm going to get into some sculpting and just, I just want to share my whole process and my whole end of making the decision back in 2014 and where I am now in 2020 and the progress that I've made and the progress I will continue to make, and I hope it helps you. So have a good night. Thanks for watching.